CNN News 18 News Global with me, Akanksha Swaroop. And the big question we are asking is who will be the next US president? The 2024 US presidential campaign is now taking a wild turn, and for now, the anti-woke entrepreneur, Indian American Vivek Ramaswamy is grabbing headlines for sharing his outlandish political statements. The 37-year-old candidate has made heads turn with his stunning speeches and has also posed a threat to his fellow opponents, saying the knives are coming out. Ramaswamy, who is anti-abortion, anti-woke candidate, wears his Hindu faith on his sleeve, is now challenging Donald Trump in the Republican presidential nomination race. Interestingly, he also supports Trump. The Indian American Republican presidential candidate Ramaswamy has said that he will vote for Trump if he becomes the party nominee. He also cleared his intention to pardon Trump if he is elected as the next president of US. Ramaswamy stated that he would pardon Trump because it will help reunite all of the United States. Ramaswamy also once again reiterated that many of the charges against the 45th US president are politically motivated and set a detrimental precedent for the United States. Amidst their vigorous campaign efforts, both Trump and Ramaswamy have been expressing admiration for each other and have also appeared to be less inclined to criticize each other's policies. Let's also listen in to what Vivek Ramaswamy has to say.
My message to Gen Z voters is it will take somebody of a different generation to shake this up, and you saw it on the stage tonight. Do you want a super PAC puppet with a bunch of pre-prepared lines, or do you want an independent patriot who speaks the truth? And my other message to Gen Z is you don't have to agree with me on 100% of what I say, but if you agree with 80% of what I said in there, and you know that I actually mean what I say 100% of the time, that's what it's going to take to reunite this country. This cannot be another 50.1 tug of war decided the Monday after the election on cable news election. It just can't. We're skating on thin ice. And if you look at the way I've been running this campaign, the places we've been going where other Republican candidates won't touch, from the south side of Chicago to Kensington, in the middle of the inner city of Philadelphia, we are building a multi-ethnic working class majority to deliver a moral mandate like Ronald Reagan did in 1980. Because I spoke authentically and I didn't come with canned slogans. And the reality is, it's good. You know what? If you're not willing to face off authentically with your fellow compatriots on the debate stage or NBC News or wherever you all are from for that matter, you're not ready to sit across the table from Xi Jinping. And I will handle Xi Jinping the same way that I will be handling my fellow politicians on that stage, which is to say with authority and with strength. And I take a lot of those attacks as a badge of honor. And I also want to say this, but they're good people. Right? I'm going to need many of those people on that stage in different roles in reviving our country. But when it comes to the White House, it will take an outsider. I think we established that tonight. And I was honored to come out, I think I think clearly the winner of this thing, just to be really honest of it. My first time ever on a debate stage, I was prepared for this to be a warm-up. The fact that we came out as victorious as we did is really an honor, something that propels me and gives me a sense of duty to see all this all the way through to a landslide in the general. I started at 0.0 in March. I'm now, probably a second. Look at some of the recent polls and we'll see how things go after tonight. I would call myself the second place in this race. It's going to be a two-horse race between me and Donald Trump before long, and I'm the only person that can win in a landslide, and I think that's the difference.
All right, so Ramaswamy claiming over there that he's the only person who can win a landslide. What makes Ramaswamy so unique and outlandish as far as his own political views are concerned? Let's break it down. And for that, let me introduce my guest today. I'm joined in by Amy Tarkanian, who is a conservative strategist and joining me live from the United States. Many thanks to you, Amy, for joining in. How do you assess Ramaswamy's support for Donald Trump? He says he will even pardon Trump if Ramaswamy comes to power. Is that his way of establishing himself as a new friendly alternative to Donald Trump?
Well, I find it concerning because if he thinks that he was the best president in the 21st century and that he would pardon him, then why is he running? I think that maybe he should step aside and support a re-election of Donald Trump if that's truly how he feels. But obviously he still is in the race. And so that's a little perplexing to be so strong, come out so strongly about your opponent. Now, on the other hand, he is gaining some traction. I don't know if it's going to be enough, though, because we're now looking at upwards of not just double digits of him being in the lead of Governor Ron DeSantis and Vivek himself, and also Governor Nikki Haley is also now gaining some traction. But we're now looking at a poll of upwards of 47 points ahead, which is almost unheard of. So it almost doesn't matter at this point if we were to take that vote today, which we know we still have some time, but it does seem that even with all of these problems that are swirling around Donald Trump, that he is still scheduled to be our nominee.
Amy, now Ramaswamy says that knives are out because he is surging ahead in the race after his first Republican primary presidential debate. What explains Ramaswamy's surge ahead in the race?
Sure. Well, he's a very well-spoken individual. He's definitely bright and intelligent. He's an entrepreneur. He's done very well for himself financially and for his family. He is young. And so a lot of people have been wanting to have a younger, fresh individual. And he's definitely the youngest of the group. He's only 38 years old, where Donald Trump is 77 years old. And then, of course, we all talk about President Biden and him being what is he, 79, 80 years old? I mean, so yes, it is nice to see somebody new on the stage. Now, however, he did do himself I guess a favor by coming out strong and not backing down to any of the attacks that were thrown at him unexpectedly on the debate. And so I think that impressed a lot of people. And the fact that everyone is coming off of a Donald Trump presidency prior to the current administration, they liked the fact that Donald Trump was feisty, that he didn't back down verbally. And when the attacks were thrown in his direction, he dished them back. And Vivek seems to exude and replicate some of that to an extent. And so I think a lot of people are viewing him as maybe a Donald Trump light, so to speak, in his mannerisms.
All right. Amy, also Ramaswamy says US must decouple completely with China, and that just like Nixon did, current day US politics must woo Russia away from China, and that he too will reduce Moscow's sanctions if he were to come to power. How do you weigh in on Vivek Ramaswamy's controversial foreign policy views?
I think overall in the big picture, no, they do not. And they actually come across as very naive. I think what he's doing, and he's doing extremely well, is he's throwing out what we would call red meat to the primary voters who do not want us to be the world's police. And I understand that and I get that. But there are certain areas where we do need to remain involved in to some extent, and we need to continue to let our allies know that we have their backs and vice versa. So you can't just pull out and expect everything to be rainbows and butterflies and expect, especially in the situation with Russia and Ukraine, that he wants to even give some of the Ukrainian land to Russia in exchange for Russia, pulling out of dealings with China, which that's ludicrous. That'll never happen. And so that's wishful thinking. So it is a little scary and unnerving to hear him talk like that. But I truly think he's doing that just for primary voter purposes.
Right, we'll have to see how his views shape up the entire presidential race and how far this takes him in the race for the White House. For now, let's leave it at that. Many thanks to you, Amy Tarkanian. It was a pleasure to have you here on News 18 Global.